Okay, welcome. My name is Matthew, and today is June 24th. It's a Wednesday. In the year 2026, I'm here in Cambodia. Doesn't matter where I am, still focus on community. And today the topic is about tribalism. I want to dig deeper into the problems with tribalism, where that comes from, misconceptions about that, and the downsides. And I've done a little bit of research on that and gotten a little bit of help from the internet about that, and also including my own ideas. Now, one of the first things I want to talk about of the dangers of tribalism is thinking it is about heritage. So I belong to this tribe. I have a sense of belonging. Okay, it's about my identity and who I am. I belong to this group of people, and that's separate from these other people. And so this gives me an identity. I know who I am because I'm different from those guys. Now, is it ever because I'm different in a bad way? No, it's always because I'm superior in some way. We're superior. Now, one of the nice things, by the way, about living in China is what I learned is they talk about 57, maybe 58 different tribes there or ethnic minorities. 97% are Han Chinese. So they're not really diverse at all when 97% are of the same race. But the good thing that I'm bringing up right now about the Chinese culture is that what they like to do is, oh, what are you? You know, what tribe are you? Or what ethnic minority are you? And it's not judgment. The only judgment I heard was when I was in Beijing, they talk about criminals. And I said, hey, my bike was stolen again. You know, I've had so many things stolen in China. It's ridiculous. Thieves everywhere. But when I mentioned something specifically like, oh, my bicycle was stolen yesterday, in Beijing, the prejudice at least 10, 15, 20 years ago maybe was about the people from the West, the Islam people, the Muslims, the people from an area called Xinjiang, which was taken over by the part of Mao Zedong's conquer of the area. Anyway, uh, I don't hear that so much anymore, but I think there's specifically maybe some prejudice. But generally, if you're Mengzu, you know, part of the people from Inner Mongolia or some of the people from another part of the country, and you're part of an ethnic minority, normally there's curiosity, there's acceptance, there's embracing, and that's a good thing. Uh, Not all cultures are like that. But when we also think about tribalism, we think about Native American tribes, you know, and oh, there that was cool. The Cherokees or the Iroquois or whatever these different Native American groups or American Indians, people talk about that, and they say, well, that was a good thing. We need to protect the tribes. No, we don't. We need to protect the individuals, the people, because those tribes, some of them, as you know, were just slaughtering others. They were just having wars, killing each other, and identifying as, well, I'm part of this Indian group, and we're going to kill them. And we've been at war for hundreds and hundreds of years. Well, that's bullshit, isn't it? Identity as a tribe, so therefore the other guys. How about the Tutsis and the Hutus? You know, slaughtering by machete a million people, throwing their bodies in the river. It's all about tribalism. And these people were indistinguishable by looking at them. And how do you distinguish? Maybe how they identify or maybe how they were born or whatever. But whatever it is, whatever the reason behind the slaughter of the Hutus and the Tutsis, not a good thing, right? Not love-based, not in the love framework, not in the acceptance, working with people, being patient, understanding, kind, compassionate towards people that are different. They're killing, they're slaughtering people. Okay, there's a problem with that. We don't want to do that. We don't accept that. And we restrain those people and we keep an eye on the people that think it's okay to kill, no matter what reason, no matter what the reason. If you are in the framework of love, you don't listen to the bullshit excuses of, oh, we had to kill him because no, you don't do that. Even murder by the state, you know, capital punishment. It's bullshit. Just because you're the government, you think you have the right to murder others? Yeah, because they extend that even to the soldiers who are stupid enough to listen to the leaders and say, oh, because we're American, it's okay to go in and kill them because it's about this or that. Liberty, justice, democracy. These are all bullshit words that enable and empower people because the stupid listen to that and they believe that and they accept that because they don't have the capacity to think for themselves and say, wait a second, this isn't loving. This isn't compassionate. This isn't understanding. This is pure tribalism. It's a kind of tribalism. Racism is also a kind of tribalism. And also, another thing about this is just the first point. So, the first point is belonging to a tribe like a gang for lost souls. Like, I grew up in the inner city and my parents were dead or whatever, or my parents didn't communicate with me, or they were drug addicts, alcoholics, abandoned me, whatever. So I joined a gang. And the gang was based upon initiation, which is, you know, almost always doing some evil thing to an innocent human being. So, oh, that's my tribe, though. So people grab onto that. Well, maybe it's the only choice they have. Okay, I understand that. I didn't grow up in a gang, so I can't really speak for those people. But I know that they need to be accepted, they need to belong, and that's community. That's the good sides of community. But the bad sides of that kind of a group, that kind of a tribe, doing bad stuff and getting backed up. And you'll hear people like talk about, going to prison, right? And they don't tell on their friends, they don't rat. Now, this is one of the principles that I actually forgot to make a note of, but this is significant. When you're part of the mafia, you don't rat. What is that? Tell on your friends. Tell about what happened. Be honest, be open. Well, one of the reasons not to do that is because the justice system is not just. That's an oxymoron. So the justice system will sometimes uh, be favoring somebody who they really shouldn't be favoring, who's just really pretty darn evil. But that's another kind of tribalism within the justice system where you have a politician, for example, that's crooked, that's corrupt. And so he'll have certain people jailed that shouldn't be, and certain people that are worse, much worse, walking free. So getting back to gangs, all of this tribalism, I understand. And I understand people that don't have a choice, that don't have a real community. They join a gang because it's a sense of belonging, a sense of protection, a sense of identity, because we need that in life. And people will go as far as killing an innocent person to become part of a gang just because at least I belong to somebody. At least I'm protected. At least I feel the semblance of people who love me, who are compassionate towards me, or who are taking me under their wing. Okay, second one, lack of independent thinking. So a big problem with tribalism is people who don't have an evolved enough of a mind. They're more driven by belonging to some entity rather than belonging to love, living in a framework of love, compassion, understanding, respect, kindness, patience, working together, cooperating, communicating. This kind of framework that is the best for survival, the best for humanity, and the real solution to pretty much all the problems in the world. 98% maybe. Community, belonging to a community and having the framework of love. Lack of independent thinking, when I was a kid, I joined a religion. I was born a Catholic, so that was the first religion that I became part of. And then there were a series of other religions when I found out each one was absolute cult garbage. But it took me a while. I'm a slow learner, but maybe I'm a little bit faster learner than a lot of people who were born into a cult and they stay in that cult their entire lives. And they never have the ability, the willingness, the understanding, the courage to stand up against that and think independently by themselves. Wait a second, is this right? Few people have the ability to do that, to stand up and say, wait a second, I don't know if this is the right thing to do. I don't know if this fits for a better world. I don't know if this fits for humanity. I don't know if this fits a framework of love. And they're taught a framework of love that's totally crap, but they accept it, they embrace it. Number three, loyalty to a person. So maybe it's a mistake, but it comes to mind Trump. A lot of people are loyal to Trump because he's quite a character, isn't he? He's quite a personality, isn't he? He can talk and he can persuade people and he can bully people. And he's just a big personality, isn't he? And so a lot of people that well, we needed a big personality. Biden wasn't big in that way. He wasn't cool. And he didn't say cool stuff. And he didn't say these things about, oh, this lady's a bitch or whatever things that he would accuse reporters of that are challenging him, challenging his integrity. But look at Trump. I mean, he's a proven pedophile. He's a proven criminal. And he's been indicted and condemned, but he's still in office. How does that happen? How's that possible? Tribalism. People will idealize an individual and stick with them and be loyal to them, regardless of their character, regardless of what they stand for, regardless of what reality they create, the effects that they create in the world, and what's really going on. That's why Trump is still in office, because we've got a huge number of Americans that sit on their asses and do nothing and don't stand up because they don't have the integrity and the courage to stand up to what is wrong. And also some that have been just totally brainwashed. Some of them that have no sense of right and wrong, that are just, caught toward this magnetism of somebody who's got this strong personality and this kind of personal ability to persuade and bully people. A lot of people fall for that. So there's a lot of that going on in America right now. That's why Trump is still in office. Loyalty to a person. How about loyalty to a religion? This is number 4. I've really seen a lot of that. I did Jehovah's Witnesses for 5 years. It's like doing time in prison. But I was a kid. I started when I was 15. I finished when I was about 20. Finally got out when I saw the incredible hypocrisy. Now, there's some beautiful, wonderful people. This isn't about, individuals and how we can love individuals and humans. We don't condemn them to being bad people, but they do get pawned. People with good hearts, but weak integrity. These are two different things, aren't they? So it takes a critical mind. It takes a mind that's kind of like the devil's advocate, we could say, looking at the other side of things, challenging things. Wait a second, is this true? When I was Jehovah's Witness, I collected all the books. I bought all the books that I could that they had published from what's called the Watchtower Society from New York that published their dogma. And you study those. And it was maybe Tuesday nights or Thursday nights. You get together in somebody's home, you sit in a circle, you're assigned certain passages from that book. You work through the book from the beginning to the end, and you're assigned passages within that book to read, understand, answer questions about. And it's very indoctrinating because of the way it's managed. You got one leader and they're the ones who ask the questions, and then you raise your hand and you answer the question, and you answer the question according to what exactly the book says. Rarely is there any personal application of this so-called truth, and probably pretty much never would that be challenged. You challenge that, you say, wait a second, this doesn't make sense. I don't agree with this. If you're not coming up with, oh, now I understand, now I completely accept this dogma. If you don't come back with that, forget it, man, you're in trouble. And you'll end up having a meeting with what they call the elders. Loyalty to a religion, I know all about that. I did 5 years in Scientology too. Born again Christianity. Charismatic Christianity, Catholicism, Soka Gakkai Buddhism, Transcendental Meditation. I've been through quite a few of them, gave my heart and soul to them, and I understand how that loyalty works. You've got to shut off any challenges. You've got to shut them off. None of them, not one of them is in a framework of love. Once again, I'm going to be redundant here. Compassion, understanding, kindness, respect, cooperation, communication, empowerment of others. As long as they're not doing something bad to hurt other people, empower them. Guy wants to be a painter or a musician or something other artistic or creative. Guy wants to be an engineer. Okay, how are you going to do that? How are you going to help him? How can you help me? How can we work together so we have a better world? No, the religions are not about that. They're about follow this dogma, and we're going to redefine what love is. And some of these sickos, unconscious zombies, think that supporting a genocide is some kind of love. Say, I talked to some of these people when I was over there in the States recently. Oh, they talk about justice. So here's their reasoning, which is not reasoning at all. If you don't know nothing about logic, you'll accept this. But if you know anything about logic, you'll see it's just a total scam to say that justice leads to eternal hellfire. It leads to genocide. When I talked to some evangelicals in Thailand that were trying to brainwash the people in Thailand, they said, it's just, they blame it on Hamas. It's okay to blow up children because of Hamas. No, it's not. You got your finger on the trigger, or you got your finger on the pen writing a check to Israel or to American soldiers that are supporting genocide. Supporting genocide. But a religion is so strong in its brainwashing. It's so strong with carrot and stick. Eternal life or eternal hell? You pick. Well, neither, because they're both total bullshit. And none of them are proven. But you'll see people loyal to their religion, gives them a sense of belonging. This is who I am. I'm this religion. I belong to this group. And we believe this. Very, very simple thinking. This is not a developed mind. This is not a mind that's able to distinguish between right and wrong or think independently. This is a brainwashed individual who says, I belong to this tribe, this religion, and whatever it does, whatever it did, it's okay. I belong to God. In the New Testament, Jesus talks about love, blah, blah, blah. What about all the slaughter that his father did in the Old Testament? What about the flood? Killing everybody, slaughtering everybody in the name of this, in the name of that. People sign up for that crap because they don't know any better, because they don't keep saying, wait a second, I reject that. I reject that. That's bullshit. That's wrong. Sports loyalty. I have mentioned this before, so I'll be real brief, but once a soccer team lost because the goalie let a ball go by. The goalie made a mistake. And the people from that team went to that guy's house and killed him. Sports loyalty. You'll see people dividing over sports. You see this incredible enthusiasm. Right now, it's a World Cup, right? People are so loyal to their sports team. They'll have fights. They take all their time, all their energy. They don't think about people getting killed, people starving to death. All of what's going on in Sudan right now is an absolute total nightmare. Sudan and South Sudan. Chronic decades and decades of messed up governments with no sense of community, no sense of independent thought, no leadership when it comes to love, when it comes to making the world a better place. None of that. They're living in horrible conditions. But what's all the time and energy going to? Who's winning the World Cup? Who won the soccer match? Sports loyalty. It's a kind of tribalism that draws us away from what's really going on in the world and love our brother to who with the ball and the thing. Ridiculous. Political loyalty. So people will be loyal to in America and most aware of whether you're a Democrat or Republican. And Republicans will constantly complain about Democrats. Democrats will constantly complain about Republicans. They sign up for a party. You have to pick a party that you're going to vote for. Why do you have to pick this? It's the perfect setup to divide and conquer. It's perfect. Instead of thinking about your actual qualities of the person that you've elected to make decisions for you, which I don't do. Nobody makes decisions for me in my life. Nobody ever has. And that pisses a lot of people off. They don't like that because they want to control you. But if you pick, okay, so I'm a Democrat, so whoever the Democratic candidate is, that's my part. How about instead of a political party, we just think about what's best? What's best for people? What empowers the unempowered? What will give attention to the neglected, the underserved? What's going to help people get off the street and get into a home and get a stable job where they're contributing to society in a real way? Not pencil pushers, not servants to the billionaires, but people that are actually contributing to their community. What the hell? Why isn't there a focus on that? Empowering people. We got people dying on the streets. But instead, people are saying, oh, I'm going to go with this candidate because it's my political party. Pure, incredible stupidity, tribalism. Democrats, that's my tribe. Republicans, that's my tribe. Political loyalty. What about racial loyalty? Now, this happens a lot with white bigots in the South, where there's a lot of strong, still racism going on, where people, just because the guy's black, they hate him, or just because the guy's white. I experienced a lot of racism when I was working on the south side of Chicago on some community projects. People drove by in a car yelling, cracker. I don't get it. Well, part of it is I've been lucky. I was lucky to be born white. I was lucky to be born on more the north side. I was lucky to have an education. Parents that provided a stable home, a bed, a clean home, healthy food most of the time. I was lucky. So when somebody calls me a name like that, a racial name, it's like, doesn't hurt me. I don't have a legacy of being uh, not privileged, of being looked down upon, of being treated poorly because of racism. So when I did experience racism and being treated poorly just because I was white, it was like a funny thing. It was like entertaining. And it was scary too, because people were getting killed in that neighborhood where I was, Inglewood. And once I had my car broken into and everything stolen out of it by a friend, black friend, because I was white, completely racist guy, no matter, even though I was there doing community projects, I was still white. He white? See a video where the girl's yelling that. They're doing some kind of what is it? Uh, I don't know, some kind of a demonstration or some kind of a riot in the streets, and they're stopping cars and breaking windows. There's a guy in a car and he's a white guy. You can hear the girl, he white? Is he white? Right. If he's white, get him. This goes so many directions. People think they're superior because they're one color, or they think they have the right. That's a tribe. I'm part of the white tribe. I'm part of the black tribe. I'm part of the Asian tribe, whatever. People get separated. It's okay to identify that. It's okay. Oh, yeah, I'm from Korea and, this is our culture. I'm from this country and this is our culture. I'm from this particular group of people. That's my culture. But that's not my tribe. That makes me better than you. We're just different. And that's variety. And variety is a good thing. But being loyal to your race, it's total bullshit because you had no choice about that. You were born into that race. You were born into that color, that ethnicity. You didn't make a choice. So what you do is you use that as an excuse. Why? I want to belong. And if I belong to this tribe as different from you, then I'm going to have more power. It's going to empower me. It's going to give me somebody to belong. It's kind of like joining a gang. It's the same exact dynamics. One thing about tribalism is following the leader. This is number 8. Follow the leader. Follow what the other people are doing. Follow the the lemmings. Be a lemming. Jump off the cliff together. So they had an experiment where people were in a room. Guy walks in, and I think he's waiting for maybe a doctor's appointment or some other kind of an interview. And maybe there's 7 people there, and they're all part of the trick. They're part of the scam. And somebody new walks in. And then they hear a bell. And everybody stands up for a moment, and then they sit back down when they hear the bell. And the new guy's like, most all people, including me, I would do it too. This is part of being a human being because we don't know. What does it mean? What does the bell mean? What are we supposed to do? Follow what the crowd does. I saw a video, Planet of the Apes, where these guys who are, on a spaceship and then they crash, and then there's a lot of other humans there, but they're not developed to the point where they can think and things like that. So they hear some chopping in the fields, in the cornfields. People start running. And these guys start running too. Just because everybody's running, we just start running. You'll also see that in the movie The Time Machine, where when there's a certain sound, everybody starts walking towards these caves. And then the cave door closes because they have enough people that they've imprisoned, and then, people, okay, it's all over now. We'll go back to our regular business. And when we hear that sound again, then everybody just starts walking. This is kind of like a Pavlovian thing, where people get conditioned. But different from the Pavlovian concept of conditioning every time you hear a bell, you salivate. This is when you see other people doing something, then you follow what they do. You don't know why they're doing that. You don't really know completely what they're doing. You just see the appearance, like standing up when you hear the bell. Okay, standing up, that's simple. This is so important to understand about humanity. We follow what other people do as humans, automatically, as animals, as human animals. And it's part of survival. You hear the sound, you start running. You don't know what the sound is. Maybe it's a big monster, maybe it's a tiger, maybe it's a flood, maybe it's a tsunami. I don't know. So this is a very important thing to understand, and watch yourself for this. Why am I standing for the bell? Do I need to stand? Why are these people standing? What's going on? And an independent thinker, a developed mind, will make this distinction. An undeveloped mind will be angry at you if you don't stand. And you know what a big, really good example of this is in the United States? Taxes. Now, there are a lot of people that have introduced the idea that taxes are not really constitutional, they're not really necessary, and that going back to the early 1900s, there were no taxes, income taxes. And then it got introduced to fund the war. It got introduced to fund this, to fund that. And now it's just gotten worse and worse and worse. But the privileged don't have to pay taxes, right? They've got it figured out. They're part of the system. They get the lawyers and the people who know the law, the people who write the law, to find loopholes so they don't have to pay any taxes. But the average person has to pay these taxes to what? Ridiculous programs, and especially military. Don't get me started on taxes, but this is part of, hey, everybody else is doing it, so I guess I got to do it too. Okay, so here are some other things that I found on the internet. What does tribalism cause? Social fragmentation and polarization. It divides people, like we talked about, Democrat or Republican. Instead of thinking, how can we best have a better nation, a better world? How can we serve the people in the nation? That should be the central, fundamental focus of the politics that run the country, that make the decisions about the country. But instead, we get fragmented by tribalism. We get divided, we get polarized. So you're either north or south, right or black, right or wrong, whatever, liberal or conservative, right wing, left wing, whatever. Tribalism creates a rigid us versus them mentality. Okay, that was good in the reptilian mind, right? The old mind, the survival of the stupid animal human. Some of us have been able to move beyond that. So what does it do? People people view society through the lens of their own group, destroys the common ground needed for dialogue. Who's going to argue with somebody? Who's going to even have a constructive discussion with somebody that they have no respect for? That's the them, not the us. You know how many people who know absolutely nothing about religion, who've been born and brainwashed into one religion, have tried to educate me? When my experience, my age, my experience across different religions is 100 times more than their experience and knowledge. Yet they're trying to tell me, they're trying to teach me. This is tribalism. This is the ignorance of tribalism. They don't ask, they just tell. Well, if you want to learn what somebody believes, if you want to respect them, you're going to ask questions. You know how few questions I've been asked. You know how many people I've met in the world that have the religious experience that I have, experienced in different religions? Zero. Never met anybody. Heard about one guy on the internet once, but never met him, never talked to him. Here we go with the notes. I'm going to read these notes. Cohesion destroys common ground needed for dialogue, splits communities into deeply polarized factions. Okay, erosion of truth and objectivity. So you lose in a tribalistic environment, the loyalty, it supersedes loyalty to the facts. So instead of really thinking what's true scientifically by evidence, understanding things, you just go by loyalty. People more likely to accept misinformation or alternative facts if they protect the tribe's narrative. So you belong to this tribe. You're going to have to support that tribe. And that is more important than the truth, than facts, than what works, than what empowers others, than what makes a better world. It doesn't do any of that. It just supports the tribe. If you're brainwashed, if you're zombied out, you support your tribe. Okay, political gridlock and instability. So when political parties or factions behave like a warring tribes, governance breaks down instead of compromising to pass policies for the greater goods. For the greater good, politicians focus entirely on defeating the enemy tribe. So this becomes really polarized in politics, right? The focus is not on empowering people. The focus is on fighting the bad guys. That's the them. That's the us them polarization. Next one, dehumanizing the people that are the them. So one of the key things that soldiers are taught that they're brainwashed to do, and every soldier is responsible for what they do. Their fingers literally on the trigger. So they're responsible for what evil that they do in the world. And believe me, most Americans have absolutely no clue. They're taught, they're raised to worship soldiers, to admire soldiers. Look at the crowd. Look at him in his uniform. He looks so proud. He's look at the nobility of the soldiers, and look at the flags and the one waving of the thing and the marching in the uniform. And look at how important. God, that's all such bullshit. Because these guys are paid and hired to murder for the state. And what is it? Hundreds and hundreds of American military bases around the world. To empower people? No, they overthrow democracies. They rape and kill and murder innocent people. And they make excuses for it. And then they expect to come home heroes. Okay. So soldiers are brainwashed to think, they had these bad words like gooks for the Asians. So when they could go in and kill the people in Vietnam, innocent people, burn their villages. What about the Japanese? Their homes mostly made out of wood. The American soldiers dropped napalm or other gasoline or whatever it took, dropping on entire villages, wiping out thousands and thousands and thousands of people. What about Dresden? in World War II in Germany. This is meant to terrorize. This stuff comes from America. This is American stuff. This isn't some evil tribe of, cannibals, in some, remote island country. This is the American policy, dropping napalm to burn everything, burn people alive. It's indiscriminate murder to terrorize, to break the spirit of a whole nation, to win a war, and then to go in and steal their resources and make business deals so that you're milking them of all their money and their productivity. Discrimination and institutional bias, tribalism naturally breeds nepotism. If you have a king in your country that's leading the country, people are loyal to the king. They have to be, otherwise they get killed. And in some countries that I've been to, you say something bad about the king and go to jail, or at least get kicked out. You're not welcome here if you're going to criticize, even though the king might be a total moron, total idiot, total asshole. Doesn't matter, because he's the son of somebody, or the daughter of somebody, or whatever. Nepotism. Isn't that amazing that we've still got kings in the world? What kind of simple-minded people would support the concept that just because somebody's related to somebody, because they're the child of somebody, that they should inherit and rule the whole country of people and do whatever the hell they want and be super, super rich and have these huge buildings where they live and have all this. I mean, I'm thinking of London. I'm thinking about, the Queen. And man, even now you talk to a Brit about the Queen and you criticize how bullshit that setup is, or the King Charles. You criticize the stupidity of that. That's total tribalism, total loyalty to some figurehead. And it's always, always, always bad. It's never a good thing. Never, never better than independent thought. Never better than empowerment. But the British have a very long history, and America does too now, even though it's a newer country, of conquering nations and bleeding them dry, milking them dry, and taking all the resources. You want to know about how the British have behaved in the world? Watch the movie Gandhi. It's a good example. But there are, I don't know, thousands, I don't know, like hundreds, dozens and dozens of examples of what this has, foreign militaries have done by invading and colonizing entire groups of people and countries. Cronyism. Look at Trump, the Trump family. They want to turn Gaza into like a Vegas or something like that. That's what they're talking about. They're actually thinking about that, talking about that, researching that, planning that. They're actually doing that in this world. Okay, so there's an increased risk of violence and civil unrest. Here's an interesting thing that's happened. This happened when Gandhi died. When peaceful avenues for conflict resolution fail due to deep-seated tribal hatreds, violence often follows. Now, this happened with Hindus and the Muslims in India. Gandhi got the British out. The British rule got them out, and that was a good thing. But what he didn't do was create communities where people learn, the Muslims and the Hindus, how to get along, how to work out their differences, how to focus on love as the center, compassion as the center, tolerance, understanding, kindness, these kind of qualities of love. He didn't do that. He didn't set up that infrastructure. So now we got Pakistan and Bangladesh, and we still have got Hindus killing Muslims in India. Why? Because people are not being raised in a community where they learn to overcome differences, where they learn to cooperate and work together and build trust with each other. They're indoctrinated by this divisive tribalism bullshit. And talks about, okay, history shows that unchecked tribalism, primary driver of hate, crimes, riots, civil wars, and in the most extreme cases, ethnic cleansing and genocide. Listen, this tribalism thing is really, really important to understand. Look out for it, understand what it means, and watch out for it and see how it affects you, see how it affects other people, and stand up and say, wait a second, judge other people on merit, on what they're actually doing, how they're contributing to society. Try to help people to understand it's not about some tribe. It's about making the world a better place. Suppression of individual identity and dissent. Tribalism will do that, huh? Breaks down individual identity. So if you belong to this religion or you belong to this race or whatever, you've got to act this way. You've got to believe in this. You've got to support this. Stifling of innovation and progress. So it cuts back on any innovation because you have to do this. You have to follow by this group. When you prioritize tribal loyalty over competence or merit. See, this word merit keeps coming up because it has to do with the actual character of an individual. And that breaks down any concept of tribalism. Kings don't do anything by merit. They're just born. Nepotism, my dad's a billionaire. My dad's a superstar. My dad's a movie star. So I had a Rolls Royce when I was 16. This kind of bullshit. Organizations, governments suffer because leadership roles are filled based on identity rather than capability. So it destroys the concept of merit. Breakdown of empathy. This is a really critical, very vital thing. When I just keep reiterating the idea about having respect for others. If you have respect for others, you're going to have empathy. Now, Israel is a perfect example of that. People that are brainwashed and raised to be part of the Israeli tribe. Part of that is hating and killing Palestinians, considering and treating them like dogs, to the point to where the snipers are competing. How many children, 3-year-old, 5 years old, walking, looking for food because they're starving because all the food is gone? How many can we shoot in the head today? How many can we shoot in the chest? How many can we shoot and kill wherever? That's how sick that mind, that tribalism in Israel, who's the worst example that I've ever heard of. Way, way, way worse than what happened in World War II. Way, way, way. These people are incredibly dangerous, and they need to be identified, and they need to be restrained, and they need to be watched. Not murdered, but don't let them hurt anybody else. That's for damn sure. They have no empathy whatsoever. They laugh, they joke, they make fun of. This is one of the sickest, most twisted aspects of tribalism. So another aspect of tribalism makes us vulnerable to psycho leaders, people that stand up and have this strong personality, have this strong bully capacity. Yeah, I'm going to hitch my wagon to that guy because he's strong and he's powerful. And now that's my tribe, that's my identity, and that's my concept of what's right as opposed to what's wrong. Economic inefficiency and resource warping. Economic policies dictated by tribal interests, resources are rarely allocated efficiently. So if you have some resources, okay, they go towards this tribe. The Christian churches in America, some people say, hey, they're the most giving. They are the most giving. You know who they give to? 95% of all the money that Christians give to their churches in America goes right back into the church, building bigger churches. I went with some of my family to some of the churches that they attend. Idiots. You should see the glory of these huge, beautiful buildings. And I attended a lot of their services. Do they ever talk about helping other people? No, they talk about brainwashing other people. Let's take a trip to another country and brainwash them to believe our dogma. Don't empower them so they can get filtered water, so they can get healthy food, so they can survive and empower themselves. No, go there and brainwash them. And the more we sign up, and you know what? These people in these other countries, they just play the game. 99% of them, they just say, yeah, yeah, I believe in Jesus. I believe, blah, 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 blah. So they get the free stuff. And then when these guys leave, they never really believe it. Why should they? They haven't been properly brainwashed or indoctrinated like these missionaries have been. But all the resources of all these people that belong to these, it's a business. When I was working in the south side of Chicago on community projects, there were churches on every block, churches everywhere. And what were they all about? Raising money. It was a business. It wasn't about bringing people together. It wasn't about building community. It was a living for the pastor. That's how they make money. Every single service, they're going to talk about donating. And then when I was a Catholic, they passed that fucking plate right under your nose. Every single person has that plate stuck under their nose so you can put money into it. Excuse me. All right, and here's the last point I'm going to make today. Generational cycles of hatred. Tribal animosities are rarely short-lived. They're passed down through generation and generation, through stories, through lies, through bullshit, through one-sided thinking, through polarized thinking. Cultural, this is like the Hatfields and the McCoys. You go through generations, right? And we forget, why do we hate these guys? We don't know why, but that's how I was raised. That's how I was brainwashed. And because I lack the integrity to research and find out and have love as my central belief, as the framework for my life, as the decider about, is this good or bad, right or wrong? Instead, it's about the bullshit that I was raised with. The people who can think for themselves independently, they don't get pawned by this bullshit. They say, wait a second. Is that true? Is that right? Does that make for a better world? And if you're not constantly asking that question, when it comes to your loyalties, when it comes to what you believe in, when it comes to what you support, when it comes to what you study and what you come to understand, then you're just a zombie. And most people by far are zombies, and I'm not talking to them. I'm talking to people, only the people that are my people, are the people who can think independently under the framework of love, kindness, understanding, compassion, respect for others, working together, cooperating, make the world a better place. Seeing the insanity of war, the insanity of billionaires living in mansions, while so much of the world is living on $1 or less a day, eating bugs, scrounging, drinking dirty water, getting diarrhea. How many thousands and thousands of children die every day under the age of 5 because they don't have access to clean water? So they're drinking water with bugs and garbage in it. They get diarrhea, they die from that. Thousands and thousands every single day. Why? Tribalism at the core prevents people from being part of the solution of creating a better world that's based upon compassion for these innocent little children. Well, I made my point. That was it about tribalism. Thanks for listening.